Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Mechanics of materials is a misnomer because the subject is more about structures or bodies than it is about materials. Although it is also true that no structure or body can be made without a material. In contrast to rigid body statics, here we presuppose bodies to be deformable. It is this deformation that allows these structures or bodies to resist the loads transmitted through them. A better name for the subject, therefore, is mechanics of deformable bodies. It covers the elementary part of the broader solid mechanics. Now, it doesn't matter what we call it so long as we know what we are talking about. So, what are we talking about? Subject is the first step in developing your understanding of analysis and design of structures and their components. In design, one decides the geometry and the material for a structure so that it does not fail structurally. In analysis, we examine somebody else's design to see if it needs amendment or improvement. Design and analysis then are two sides of the same coin. And because design is generally an iterative process, it involves analysis as well. Now, since all structures must perform their intended function without undergoing any of the several possible modes of failure, we design structures and analyze them for strength, stiffness, and stability. Now, unlike everyday language, we will use these terms and those that we will come across in future very precisely and with their distinct definitions. For our purposes in this subject, a structure is not strong enough if it deforms drastically or permanently, or it yields. A structure is not stiff enough if it is too flexible for its function. And a structure is not stable enough if it runs away from the load. Because when the structure refuses to even take the load by running away from it, the questions of strength and stiffness do not even arise. Let us take an example. In the first case, the structure has undergone plastic deformation. The body fails to return to its unloaded configuration even after the load has been withdrawn. In the second case, it regains its original dimensions after the load is removed. But the deformation produced while loaded is too much for the application concerned. In the third case, the structure is not stable enough as it buckles or runs away from the load. In this case, it must be constrained appropriately or made less slender so that one may talk about adequate strength and stiffness. Now, it is worth emphasizing here that we are talking about strength and stiffness of the structure and not the strength and stiffness of the material. The two, as you will see in the coming segments, are quite distinct sets of items. The material strength and stiffness, they do play a role, of course, and an important one at that. But our focus will be on the strength and stiffness of the structure. You will be quite content to accept material strength and stiffness values as reported by those whose business it is to measure mechanical properties of materials. Now, while it is true that for most structures, strength and stiffness are desirable attributes, but structures should only be as strong and stiff as required and not any more than that, because anything more will amount to wasting of the material, which costs money. So efficiency will be an overriding concern throughout our study. Therefore, over-design will be as much a concern for us as a failure to reach minimum values of strength and stiffness. It must also be noted that depending on the function, some components need to be flexible. For example, a swimming pool diving board or a helical spring. They are not made of materials that are usually thought of as flexible. Instead, flexibility is imparted to them by their shape and the way the load is applied to them. Again, a distinction between structures and materials. Our focus will be here. Now, what about the geometries and loadings that we are going to encounter? In this subject, we deal with simplified geometries and loading. For example, prismatic shafts, beams, and rods, where one dimension is much larger than the other two. You can see that the length dimension in all these cases is much larger than the width or the height. Or there could be a combination of these, for example, this. Or conversely, where the third dimension is much smaller than the other two. In this case, the third dimension, thickness dimension, is much smaller than the in-plane dimension. For example, as this thin plate subjected to loading only in the plane of the bigger dimensions. Now, at first, this might sound like a devastating limitation, but a surprisingly large number of engineering components can reasonably moderate based on one of these simplifications. For example, bolts, shafts, gears, springs, plates, thin-walled pipes, etc. Even when in future you will use more general purpose tools that can deal with more complex geometries and loading, such as the finite element method, the insights gained now from mechanics of materials will prove to be indispensable for checking the sanity of your numerical simulation results. Now, mechanics of materials will build on the foundation of rigid body statics, which you have already studied. After this course, you will learn machine design and FEM. This is how your design-based courses will progress. Now, this is important to understand that only after studying all these subjects should you consider yourself competent enough to deal with even moderately complex structures. Mastery of mechanics of materials, then, is certainly a necessary condition to acquire that competence, even if it is not a sufficient condition. About the materials, in this course, we will primarily deal with metals. But the concepts developed can be extended with some modifications to other classes of materials such as polymers, ceramics, composites. Finally, a word on units. We will be exclusively dealing with SI units in this course.